Remember one thing, it's your America. So it's not the government's America, it's the people's America. You make the choices, you make the decisions that benefit you. We support the Constitution and the principles for what they stand on. That is our foundation, and we don't apologize for believing in God. So, welcome to the show today. We have got a really great guest. Feel privileged to speak to him today, and he's a very busy man, especially this time of the year and this time of the season, so to speak. I guess we can say politics can be almost like a season because once it started, it doesn't stop. But we have Sheriff Greg Seabolt from Randolph County, and he's going to talk to us a little bit today about Randolph County and what's going on in Randolph County and things that they're looking at and things that they're accomplishing there and things that they're looking for the future, their vision, and just a general conversation with you and me, just explaining to you what sheriffs do in the state of North Carolina. So, Sheriff Seabolt, thank you for being here today.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
It's an honor to have you here. And I'll tell you, if you would, just introduce yourself to the viewers of who you are and what's going on in your county.
Okay. I'm Greg Seabolt. I retired from the Highway Patrol in 2013. And I decided to run for sheriff after the late Maynard Reed, who was suffering from cancer. He eventually died. He was a great sheriff here. He knew how to reach the people. And they appointed another sheriff to take his spot. And he wasn't much of a leader. I had worked for him for many years, and I decided to throw my name in the hat. And I eventually won the 2018 election. I was the only incumbent, the first incumbent, or he was the first incumbent to lose an election by an outside person. And I was very fortunate. We got reached the people, we talked to the people, told the people what we wanted to do, and we went out and did it. And we've made a huge change here in the philosophy of Randolph County Sheriff's Office. We brought the office to the people. And, I get 25, 30 phone calls a day. I get text messages. Everybody's got my number. And I think it's aggravating at times, but, that's what it's all about. I've got to be able to have contact with these people, and they'll call me before they call 911 a lot of times. And I want to bring that one-on-one back to the Randolph County Sheriff's Office. We've done that, and we've got great responses from most of the voters coming early to vote. They'll come by and say, "Hey, you earned my vote," or you've got my vote. No doubt about it. People that I don't even really know that well are going out and really pushing my name and trying to get their family to vote, other friends to vote, and hopefully we'll have a great turnout and win this upcoming November midterm election. We do have a Democrat running against us. Randolph County is primarily a Republican county, and I feel good about winning this election, but I want to get every vote because I deserve it more so than the other guy. He has no experience. And as I've told many other people before, I wish I could lay my heart out on a table and all the candidates do the same and let people walk by and look at it and say, "Oh yeah, he's genuine," or "Yeah, he's lying," or whatever. It would be much easier to do that way because so many people that are running for office this day and time will manipulate the public, and that's not good. It hurt the candidates that are truly wanting to make a difference in their communities.
Yeah, I think sometimes watching these commercials, excuse me, you'll see you'll see candidates on television that you knew there were not 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 good for law enforcement as they served as an incumbent, whether it's a Senate case or anything like that. And then you see these commercials about anything that they may or may have not done, and they really can't justify what they're saying or doing. But they turn it over to a third group, a PAC, to say anything and everything, and then they can have an immediate disclaimer. But it's just one of those things that, excuse me, it's one of those things that they typically do.
And I think it's happening in the Senate race now.
Oh yeah, that definitely is, especially when you look at the if you look at the Wiley Nickel race and Bo Hines and all those things that are going on. It's it's amazing to see the commercials that come out, and you think, and then you see law enforcement endorse another organization that'll endorse a candidate that was part of the defund the police efforts.
Right.
That's kind of amazes me that, how do you as a law enforcement organization forget that person you're endorsing right now is part of has been part of the 46 signatures in the NC legislature that signed a commitment to defund training and all these things within organization, but then they hit it by, they broke it down by specific items as opposed to saying an overall defunding the police like they were doing. I just don't understand
exactly
that concept.
Understand it.
But yeah, so it does get tough out there, and it's a tough political season because a lot of countries, the UK and places like that, have laws that forbid that you have to put out if you put out a commercial, it has to be one has to be accurate. They have fact checkers, and it's both sides. And if you get caught putting something out, I got a buddy over there. He ran for office. If you get caught putting something out, your campaign is done. They shut your campaign down. And it's really weird. I mean, but I can't imagine.
We've had so many rocks thrown at us, and it's mostly lies. And we've had to stop what we're doing and go write a press release showing what we've done and where the facts are. So it's aggravating and it's time consuming.
Mm-hmm. That it can be. So how big is your county? How big is Randolph County?
Our county land-wise is 805 square miles. We've got roughly 144,000 people that live here. We're getting ready to see a huge increase in the number of people due to the Toyota battery plant that will bring a lot of jobs to this area. We've got over 2,000, almost 3,000 open building permits in the Archdale Trinity area. Right. And this don't bring one person, it brings a family, to that area. So the numbers are going to increase quite dramatically in the next 10 years.
Right. Yeah, and that's the growth. And when you talk about infrastructure, how does infrastructure play into the sheriff's office right now as infrastructure is like it is and probably the way it'll grow?
Well, we're working with, matter of fact, Trinity community, city of Trinity, a board. We have 5 deputies that are assigned, subcontracted through us to work that area along. Mm-hmm. They wanted more of a police presence. Working that many square miles, 805 square miles, with maybe 11 deputies scattered throughout the county. You didn't see a lot of deputies, but they were there. Our response times when I took office, I wanted to reduce those from a 12-minute down to 5 or 6 minutes. We're down to about 9 minutes on the average. And when we get more patrol officers assigned, hopefully the county commissioners will allow us to hire more in the near future due to the housing market and the number of people that we see that may be moving into the area. Right. Hopefully we can get that square or the response times down to even lower than 9 minutes. We take great pride in our response times. Instead of going and doing the report, we're catching some of these people actually in the act of stealing property.
Right.
And that's just, I guess, provide money for their drug addiction that we're seeing here in Randolph County. We've had a lot of it. Well, just this year, we've had 176 overdoses since July. And, we need to cut that number and provide a facility to help these people get off this drug, the opioids that are killing so many people. We can't really do that until they close the border. We need the border shut down. We see it. Every law enforcement officer sees it. I've talked to a lot of sheriffs down in the southern part, down around the border, Arizona. They say, yeah, they leave, they cross the border, and they're there momentarily. They stay where, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, Virginia. So we're getting the effects of the illegal mass exit, from Mexico up here. And we've got to put a stop to it.
Everybody's become a border state right now. There's no doubt about it.
So once we can get a hold or some sort of stop for these illegals crossing over, the fentanyl, is coming from China. Hopefully, we can put a big decrease on that. Right. There was 2 weeks back in, I want to say it was June, that we made 2 huge busts, and it was all fentanyl. It was 1 week. It was enough to kill everybody in Randolph and Chatham County. We worked another case. The second week, we charged enough. We got enough fentanyl to kill everybody in a 7-county area, including Guilford, Forsyth County, Davidson. It's out there, and we're seeing the effects of it. And we have got to put a stop to this mess coming into our country.
Yeah, not to mention what it does to law enforcement if you come across it and you don't know what it is.
Exactly. It's like trying to stop a gushing leak, with a piece of tape. We got to cut the water off first, in order to fix it. And hopefully this administration will wake up and help us out there.
Yeah, so far we've not had any luck in that direction, that's for sure. And I think, and I'm just going to be real candid here. I think from a standpoint, it's like how many people can we get to come through the country to be later votes? But I think what they're anticipating is that they got locked up. But it doesn't appear that they have that vote locked up, because I think people are getting a lot wiser now about what's going on. And I've talked to so many people, and I'm telling you, they're from Mexico and different, just different countries, and they're like, you can't just let everybody through here. I've even had some of them say, hey, my relatives here, and they should never let him in.
They're feeling the pain also. They're experiencing it. And, most of the Hispanics in our area would vote Republican. They're family oriented. They go to church, and they see the problems that we are facing each and every day, and they don't want to be a part of it. So, we need to sit.
Yep, you're right. And I think too is when you look at that, as many as I talk to, and I go back for years in Durham, where I was a law enforcement officer. Everybody's concerned about their family. I don't care who you are, where you're from. We all have a common interest, and that is protecting our family and a better way of life for our families. That's what we we all want. That's what anybody else wants. And saying that there are right ways to go about that. And when you see, you know, people like to stereotype certain families or have anything like this. Or this person's always going to be that way. This person's that way. I think what we're finding out in life is that society is waking up, you know, and society is waking up and looking at people now, not for what they look like, it's for what they do and what their actions are. I think we're a lot closer to that part of the spectrum than we are to the far left side of the spectrum.
I agree with you. I really do. And we can only take so much. Um, if we can, get a hold of that fentanyl crisis that we're experiencing, and then we can do our job much more efficiently. And it's just, it's hard. You're getting officers leaving, going to Greensboro, High Point for better salaries.
Right.
And, these are good officers, but we're now maybe one or two short on patrol, and we've got a detention center that's under construction. We're going to have probably 211 more additional beds when this is finished. So we'll be a capacity of 450 beds, which is going to be a good sized facility. We're going to have to continue looking for people there, recruits to come in and work there now, because they will have to be trained. And we're maybe 14 or 15 short in those areas of jailers. So hopefully we can hire some of those people, fill those positions, and move on. But yeah, we're competing with Greensboro, High Point, Winston-Salem. And it's hard to compete when you've got we can't pay those salaries. So
yeah, it's a tax-based issue because a lot of people can't do it. It's just people, going to tell me, so, you can always want to do something, but it's like writing that check that you don't have any money in the bank for. The paper looks good on the way out, but somebody's got to get paid.
Now, back during the COVID, everybody was mandating vaccines.
Right.
We didn't. It's up to you. If you want to get a vaccine, get it. And we had a lot of people from Greensboro leaving their department, Guilford County Sheriff's Office, coming here due to that main reason. And we've kept most of them, but some have went back to their home.
Right.
We try to treat every employee as if they're family, and that brings a lot of new recruits in. We get to meet them, their family, and we're small enough where we can get to know each and every one of them, and we bring them into the office. Halloween, we've got a big get together this Saturday night with family and friends, and also we're bringing in the public for a big trunk or treat. We're going to show them the office, and then we do the same thing for Christmas. We bring the families in and invite the public. So we try to have little, I guess, events for the public, and another way to get to know the family, the kids, and of our employees. So it's I look forward to those events.
It's always nice when your company or your sheriff's agency or whoever you work for, you see them very active in the family, inviting the family along the way too, especially, during Christmas, and you just never know when Santa Claus shows up, that type of thing. And it's always children involved in it. It's always a good thing. And that's why, when law enforcement is hit so hard, when they lose one of their own in the line of duty, is because they are a family. And in law enforcement, we're a very unique family, because we can argue with each other just like brothers and sisters.
Mm-hmm.
But when push comes to shove, we're all in it to win it together. And
You're
when
exactly right.
one loses, we all lose. So
exactly right.
it's a very sad tragic times out there right now. Officers being killed in the line of duty at the alarming rates, based on a false narrative.
Yes, it is, and we each week we stress the, don't become complacent. You've got these ambush type killings now happening, right. And I don't want to ever have to go to a home and tell a mother of two that their husband had been killed, brutally killed, and so hopefully, and we pray each and every day here at our sheriff's office. Before 8 o'clock, we have morning devotions, and we pray over every employee, and pray for the needs of these employees. So God's with us. If not, we would not have made the accomplishments we've made in the last 4 years.
So what is your vision now for the sheriff as sheriff's office as you move forward with some of the things that are going on that you'd like to see?
I've always wanted to be proactive, but a lot of times as a sheriff, you've got to be reactive. We see a huge problem with overdoses, and last year I made a few phone calls, and I've got some land donated. Actually 20 plus acres, and we're going to put a long-term drug rehab facility on that property. It's going to be a nonprofit. It's not going to cost you anything to attend, to be there. It's going to be a 6-month or a 12-month program. You've got to have a long-term to really work. I grew up in it. I had family members that were addicted, and I know that short-term rehab is not going to work. It's not, and you've got to have Jesus Christ at the forefront of this. And we've got a board already lined up for it. It's just right now, Rick, we got the land located in an area that is not, I guess, conducive for people to find. And we're going to have, we've got some other land we're looking at here in Asheboro that is right off a main highway. It's easy to find, but it's secluded. And, we're going to have to get people to drop off donations, and it would be hard to go all the way from one side of the county to the other side to do that. So we want it centrally located, and we're working on possibly switching that with another landowner up here in Asheboro to get that property. The property we got to begin with is much more valuable, than compared to the property we're wanting to trade for. So we're working and trying to get that done. We've got to bring some sort of, I guess, solution to some of these people that keep going to jail each and every week. It's like a cycle. They either get out, come back week after week after week, or they end up in the obituary. And
it's a revolving door.
Exactly. We want to stop it. We want to have something for these people. And, it doesn't discriminate. You can, I've talked to a lot of people that did a great job of parenting, and, they're in the upper end of the spectrum when it comes to salaries. It's just their kid just went off and experimented something, maybe marijuana laced with fentanyl. You never know what you're going to be experimenting with for the first time, and it may end up being your last time doing drugs.
I'm glad to hear you say that, because I've told so many students in these schools that I talk to from time to time, and I worked, like I said, I worked 35 years in law enforcement, and I worked my way up. I made it as internal affair officer 3 times. First time as a sergeant, second time as a lieutenant, last time I was a captain. So the credibility of being internal affairs and being able to go into the schools and they understand my job is one thing is, if we're trying to keep law enforcement straight and on the narrow and we were supposed to be doing, which we do a very good job at that. And
Mhm.
most agencies do a great job in doing that. They handle those things. But it also is an example to the students that they have to do the same thing. Sometimes they have to help keep each other straight also. You always have to kind of look at one person, whether it's a girl or boy, male, female. I mean, it doesn't matter who you're talking to. If you can figure out one person that can carry the message that people respect, that's how you win. That's how you win a few battles. You're not going to win the war because this is a war that's never going to end. That war is always going to be there, but you got to win as many battles as because for everybody you help, there's 3 or 4 that are getting addicted right at that very moment. It makes it very tough from a crisis point.
So it's a problem. As I said before, it's hard to fix a pipe that's gushing. We got to cut the water off, and we need to start it by the border, stopping these entries into our country. And they've got over, I want to say, 900,000 that they don't know who they are.
Hmm. Right.
Um, I'm sure the number's much higher. And these are not only from Mexico; they're from Venezuela. You never know
Hmm.
if someone wants to come over here, and we had the 9/11 deal, um, which we have a car decorated to commemorate that, the 20th anniversary. We had a young lady here that was on the flight that was killed there in Pennsylvania. Um, you know, we've got the main role of government, federal government, Constitution. You've got to help in the security of the citizens, and they're not
Yep.
doing a good job of that.
No.
They're failing there, and then they're telling us that the border is actually secure. We know that. I've talked to Sheriff Sam Page, who's been there. He's experienced it, and talked to Sheriff Mark Lamb, who's
Right.
seen it. Um, we've got to stop it. We've got to stop it. And that if we can stop it, that will help us take care of the other problems.
Right. Right. And I think what you said, I've got a book and it's called "We the People in Our Defense: The Bill of Rights and Action" and things like. And I always tell everybody if you want to learn about, you got to do some reading on it, because you have to understand that our Constitution is not an ever changing, ever flowing document. It is a rock solid foundation of who we are as a country. And too many people try to change that to amend it to their belief and not the belief of our forefathers and the country as it existed and the blood that they shed so we could have a constitution. And I think sometimes that's forgotten somewhere in that middle. And Lieutenant Governor Mark Robinson can explain that very well. And I see where he endorsed your candidacy. You
Yeah.
want to talk a little bit about that?
Yes. We got behind Lieutenant Governor Robinson, back when he was running. Um, I feel like he was God sent. I really do. He's a person that you never see him carry a piece of paper up to give a
No,
speech. He
no.
speaks from the heart, and he's one of those that only comes around in a lifetime. And I believe God, brought him here at the most opportune time, because he's one of those that speaks it, and he does it. You know, we've got to have somebody like that. He's a true American. He loves this country, and I think with what he's doing in North Carolina right now is phenomenal. And if you've never heard him speak,
Yeah.
I urge everyone to go. You know, if you have to YouTube, watch him there, whatever. Get an opportunity to meet him. He's genuine. And the first moment I met him, first time I met him, I knew this guy was special. And we've kind of, I know his wife Yolanda, who lives or is from Randolph County, and we roll out the red carpet when he comes to town. We hope he comes here a lot. We hope that he continues to come, and he's one of those people that I look up to. I really do.
I think I explained it one time to a crowd. They said, what do you think of the Lieutenant Governor, Mark Robinson? And I said, well, here's what I see. I said, he has come when we need him. He's here. If we've ever needed anybody in America and in North Carolina, we need him now. And he came out. And when he came out, it wasn't like he was out there plotting and planning. He spoke from the heart. He spoke about what he believed, and he spoke on the issue that applies to our Constitution and our foundation, our very foundation that gave us the Constitution, the things that we could do. And I said, I think if God was looking down on us, he would. If God was here and he's saying, "Okay, guys, let me gather up," I tell you, I think his words would be, "You know who the devil is, but now I'm going to introduce you to my right hand. So you get ready, because he's on your side." And and that's the way I feel, because you won't find anybody, as genuine as Lieutenant Governor is. He put all his heart and energy there.
He's got that passion.
Oh yeah. And I'm just amazed. When I first met him, I, like everybody else, I was back and forth on Facebook. When I first met him, I told my wife one day, I said, "Wow, what a guy!" It's one thing to talk to him on the phone, but it's another thing to sit there and have the conversation with him. And what I found out is how articulate he is, and how educated that whether it's politics or just history, not only American history, but the globe, history of the globe. And to be well rounded, you've got to understand the people that come to North Carolina, where they come from, how they believe, how they live, what they do, if you want to make things work together. And I think he's been able to do that. And he's if I had to sum up, he's a warrior, and he's our warrior here in North Carolina. And I think he can be whatever he wants to be.
I agree with you. And, I think we're very fortunate and blessed to have him as our Lieutenant Governor now. And, I know there's bigger things on the horizon for him.
Mm-hmm.
And I look forward to the next 20 years watching him grow as a politician.
Yep, you never know. You never know when the Lieutenant Governor, when he sets his mind to something, where he'll end up at. So,
well, I look at, he's probably top 5, probably top 3 African American Republican candidates in America.
Mm-hmm.
He's on Fox News quite regularly. I rank him up there with Tim Scott. I really do. And, overall, I'd say he's top 10.
Yeah, I had somebody ask me one time, say, "Well, why don't he go on CNN News?" I said, "Because they're scared of him. They're not going to ask him on CNN. They're just not going to do it. That's just not who they are." But again, so now with your officers, and when you talk to your officers, what is their sense of feeling about the direction of the agency and some of the things they want to do and things that you work with them on that create the agency in accomplishing your goals?
Yeah, that's a good question. And, some of these agencies never let their subordinates know where they want to go and how are they expected to do a job without knowing which direction they want to go in to. And, you know, I tell each member, I try to get to know them very well. And I tell them, this is your sheriff's office. It's not mine. I'm just blessed to oversee it for a brief time. But this is your sheriff's office. You make it what you want it to be. And, you know, we want it to be successful. The last 4 years, we've done incredible things. You know, we're getting a lot of notoriety from other sheriffs, such as Sheriff Blackwood. He's noticed it. And, you know, we're not done. I tell each one of them, as I do my admin staff, as I tell myself every day, be better tomorrow than you were today. And, you know, with that type of attitude, we're going to succeed. We don't let the negative affect who we are. We're going to continue to go out and spend the time needed to help these people. It may be, you know, I told them, mowing a yard. If you go by and you see someone struggling to mow a yard, if you can't stop and mow it for them or don't have time, call me, let me know, and I will leave the office and go out and fix that problem. I don't care what it is. We're going to serve the citizens no matter what. And we're working on a vehicle now that was donated. We're going to put some yard rakes, shovels, you know, things over the winter. We may get snow to distribute some salt remover or snow removal. We're going to do anything we possibly can to help. And, you know, we have our Citizens Academy now that it puts a lot of emphasis up close. They get to see what we're doing and how we do it. And also they get to experience that feeling of riding with a deputy when they stop a car or go to a call, domestic violence, whatever it may be. They get the feeling that the officers sometimes getting, you know, where the hair stands up on the back of your head. You know, we're here for the people. I was raised, you know, with my grandmother for the first 12 years. And I told them the other day, this time of year, you know what I'd be doing when I was probably 8, 9? I would be putting plastic up on our windows, you know, the cold air out. And I said, I guarantee you in Randolph County, there's people out there thinking, who can I get to put plastic up on my windows? You know, there's a lot of older houses still, a lot of older people. A lot of the families have, you know, their kids have grown and took off to another city or whatever. We have an elderly call program where we check on the elderly if they don't have anybody. You know, we protect pretty good, but I don't think you can ever be satisfied with service. You always want to improve that service. I've done a house closing in my office. The guy couldn't read. His wife left him, and she handled all the bills. And he came to me and said, "Hey, I don't understand what I need to do." And he had to get her name off of the deed. I said, "Well, we're going to probably have to refinance it." He said, "Well, how do you do that?" And, you know, we did it right here in my office. This is a guy that didn't have anybody to turn to. And I was very honored and humbled to know that he trusted me to come up and see if I'd help him. If I would have said, "Hey, that's not me. That's not my category. You know, you're going to have to do this."
Right.
I would be, I guess, neglecting a promise I made to the people 4 years ago. And I said, "You'll never hear us say, that's not my job. I can't do that."
Right.
We can do anything to help these people. So Um, I tell our deputies the same thing,
Right.
to go out and serve these people and be better tomorrow, a lot better tomorrow than you were the past day. And we strive on that. We
Right.
concentrate on the citizens.
Yeah, because when I was in training, I used to tell our guys, I'd say define community service, and everybody put down these great big paragraphs,
Hmm.
and I'd simply look at them. It's called service to the community, plain and simple. It's whatever it is, when you need it, when you got to do it, um, you do it. I mean, it's like you. I'm glad to hear what you were saying about the community services. I used to drive around and teach the new officers. You stop as you're riding through. If you see somebody in the driveway, get out and talk to them. Get out of your car, shake their hand, introduce yourself. You you
Exactly.
you establish a rapport, and that establishes information for the future. And then 20
Exactly.
years from now, you've established a friendship. So they go a long way.
And it's simple. It's really simple, um, to be a good police officer. And sometimes we make it hard. If they would just slow down and look at it from a personal standpoint, you know,
Mhm.
I tell them to write their obituary. Write it now. You know, each day have a little bit of completion on that final photograph that will be seen their last day. You know, you have bits and pieces of a picture that you're responsible for, and add to it each and every day. So we've got a great bunch here that that knows, I guess, how I look at things now, and um, I think, by me doing it and living it, it shows. We do a lot of charities. We do a lot of cooking for people that are undergoing cancer treatments. Hard luck stories, and that's what it's about, being there for those people. And we have a lot of people volunteering now to help me do that. So
Right.
it's working.
Everybody's crisis is different. My crisis may be different than yours. And like you said, the gentleman who couldn't read it and had problems, his crisis was a big thing for him. So ultimately, it affects him personally and physically. And so same thing happens to folks out in the community when we may see somebody who can't get their groceries out of the car, um, and that's a crisis for them. But if we can eliminate that one crisis, we're doing a whole lot better for the day. Always, we used to have an agency was courtesy courtesy checks, and we would keep up and document each courtesy check and where we did it and who we did it for, and it would always come back that way. It's like, tell us who you talked to, what was the courtesy that you rendered that day, and how did it go. And the guys would go, why do I got to write all that down? Well, it wasn't for me. In the long run, it's for you working that area, because now you got documentation of who's at that house, what you did for them, and you'd have to show it to me, but you'd have to keep it yourself too. So
Exactly.
yeah, so it builds a rapport and a trust in the community, and I believe in getting out into all communities to do that. And no matter what agency you're with, whether it's a city police department, whether it's a sheriff's office. So glad to hear that, because that's community service is key to success for any agency and for any initiative. Because if you have the support of the community behind you, you can accomplish anything you want to.
And you mentioned Sheriff Blackwood earlier.
Yeah, he's great.
He has a great program set up for the community, serving hot dogs to the elderly.
Oh
Uh,
yeah.
and when I go to some of these conferences, I'm like a sponge when I'm around the veteran sheriffs. You know, they have all the knowledge. Terry Johnson,
Oh yeah.
Lisa Buck, Sam Page. You know, I try to pick up as much as I possibly can from those guys.
Yeah, and experience is the best teacher. And that's where you get your knowledge from. So, yeah, it really does. And like I said, for me, it's always been community services, and they may call it whatever they call it, scope units or whatever they call it. There's always an initiative, out there that deals things. And you also deal with the courts and civil process and all that in your court systems, and also safety and security of the courtroom, and also safety and security of the schools. So you got a big plate there. Um, so how do you work that into all your scheduling and being able to kind of do it all? You know,
Well,
in all.
I have a great staff, and sometimes we have to prioritize where I need to be or what I need to do. I try to go to every Dare and Care graduation. I think that's very important. Um, we we spend a lot of time in the schools. I'll go eat lunch with some of the students occasionally, just on a whim. I may be, going down to Liberty or something. I may stop by at Ramsey or Franklinville and eat lunch with a student or a class, and you know, it's not a big deal for me, but it's a big deal for those guys. And I like to talk to them, and I guess go back in time. And I always think about me being that age, what I thought, and how it was very important that you put positive people in your path to, I guess, influence you differently than having someone negative. A lot of these kids have nothing, to go home to.
Right.
Um, they look forward to going to school because they can change who they are, if that makes sense.
Hmm.
And when they go home, they may have to deal with a alcoholic father or a drug addicted mother. I had a grandmother that, thank God, was there for me for the first 12 years of my life. So I've got a heart for the kids that I guess are underdogs in this world. And I always tell them, hey, it don't matter what you're going through. If you're going through some rough time, that God is preparing you. You would think you would be a lot much further behind in life, but God's preparing you to be something better, to be something bigger. And don't, I guess, fret and dwell on these hard times. Use it as a learning tool, as a way to become a better person. I look back when I played ball. Um, I loved baseball, football, and I excelled in all. I was in the South Davidson Hall of Fame, inducted in, and I was just a poor boy raised by a grandmother who I only went there because I felt equal. I had a uniform just like everybody else, and I didn't have to wear my raggedy shoes or outdated clothes. I wasn't compared to by what I had on then, and it little things really help out. I guess these kids. We have a red sleigh program that we buy clothes for these kids
Hmm.
at Christmas time, and we've helped over nine. I want to say close to 10,000 kids at the present time since 1999, and it gives back. We buy good clothing, not to put Walmart down, but we buy good name brand for these kids so they can go to school and feel like they're somebody, you know. Um, but the kids are important. We need to reach those kids at a early time, and our SROs are handpicked, and we tell them that I want them to be there for the kids and find those kids that need that special attention and provide them with the attention that will make them a better student. And so far, it's working. They're doing a great job.
Well, I think school systems, people don't realize that the school system is almost like its own, it is its own community,
It
the
is.
way they do things. And, the while the sheriff can't be on the side of every school, his representative can be at these certain schools that they're assigned to, which makes them the sheriff of the school until
Mhm.
when the things hit the fan, that they're the ones that there are certain laws that give SROs the ability that does not give the actual deputy not assigned to the school the ability to do certain things. And I think that so many times the people that think that any officer can walk in and do anything they want, and that's not necessarily true.
Uh,
But you can go to the SRO who's assigned to that school, and the powers of the SRO and the sheriff are a lot greater than the officer walking off the street. And I
you're
think a lot of
exactly right.
a lot of
That's
people
why
don't.
that's why it's important to have good people at these schools that represent you. And I tell them, yeah, you are the sheriff of that school, of that community. And a lot of agencies in the past, I feel like have put in their problem, employees at schools to get them
Mhm.
out of the limelight. We put our best. We call them the A team. I call
Yep.
them and picks them, and they're the A team. And I feel comfortable that if we do have a shooting, it's not going to be, like Texas, Uvalde, where
Yeah. What?
time lapse. We're going to go in, we're going to find the threat, and we're going to eliminate it. Period. If you can't do that, then you shouldn't be an SRO.
Right. And we do train in law enforcement. You do too. The standard of how we go in there, we don't sit there and wait for the SWAT team to assemble.
No,
The first one in there is going in, and that's the nature of the job. You got to be running in while everybody else is running out. I mean, that's just the way it
exactly.
goes. And you got to have the right people in there. Like I said, you as a sheriff are responsible for that, because if it goes south, they're going to come to you, the sheriff. You're the one that has to have the answer. And of course, it's just a lot of training goes behind that. It's not just throwing an officer in there. I think the community can feel comfortable knowing that they have a school resource officer that's trained, that can act on a moment's notice to protect and defend everybody in the school at the cost of even giving his or her life. So, and they
Exactly.
will do it. So,
Yes, sir. And we try to provide our SROs with the best equipment, technology that we have, um, and show them that you can't get enough training. We send them to training every year, regardless if they've had that type class. We want them to know that their position is probably one of the most important positions with our county sheriff's office. So we have 21. We just added 4 additional to the elementary schools. We have Randolph County is like a square. We have 220 traveling south, 74, and 64 traveling east and west, and we have 4 quadrants. And we got 4 SROs added to our budget, which I hate to increase our budget, but I want to make sure we're doing the right things. And we added 1 per area, and that one person will work like 5 schools in the northwest quadrant, which is Archdale and Trinity. In the other areas, you'll have 1 working at least 4 elementary schools, and they're to go by there each and every day and check on the students and the parents, um, teachers, whatever it may be. A lot of times, our parents will set up a time to uh, schedule a meeting with the SROs, and which is great. I love it. I love the parents getting involved and and wanting to know exactly who their SRO is and what kind of
Mhm.
qualifications he or she may have. So, yeah, as far as other, I guess, heavy scheduled items that I have to deal with, um, you just prioritize, and if you can't make it, then you allow one of your designees to attend, and I like to assign some of those to patrol officers. Um, they get a kick out of it. You got to meet like a commissioner. I can't be there or something for lunch. I'll send a patrol officer, and I'll pay for his lunch. That way he can get to know the commissioner. Commissioner can get to know him, and it's kind of a one-on-one. The commissioner will get more out of it with him than he would with me. Or, I'm sure he will quiz him, ask him questions, and it's an opportunity for him to get information about me and what we're doing, in a real type setting. How the deputy looks at it and feels like we're doing. So it's if you tell a deputy this is your sheriff's office and don't do anything to prove it, by letting a deputy go eat with the commissioner, I'm showing him, hey, you're just as important as I am. And, leadership, I think, is you've got to do that. You've got to be able to relinquish some of your authority to some of these younger people and prepare them to be leaders in the future. And, a lot of people say, yeah, I hired so-and-so, which is a good employee. I've got a great colonel and lieutenant colonel. I didn't hire them and just ignore them. I listened to them. I listened to what they have to say. And most of the time I follow through with what they have to say.
It's like prepare everybody for the next level of leadership and then move up, keep doing that.
Yes, sir. Yeah. We've got to do that in order to continue my philosophy of what I want the sheriff's office to be like, to continue on years and years after I'm gone.
Right. And, what you said leans back to what you reminded me of. And it's, I used to tell everybody, and it sounds like what you're doing too, is know if you have a single point of failure, because if you have one part that breaks out and nobody else to step in, you just tore the whole system all apart until you can finally get it fixed. Exactly. Each part has to follow and be able to click into a place and keep rolling. It's kind of like running a NASCAR race. You got to be ready for the next step.
The little things will sink a ship. And I really put a lot of emphasis on little things. And if I hear someone say, well, it really don't matter. Yes, it does. It does matter.
Yeah. The last great thing to ever be said before it gets blown up. It didn't matter. Boom.
My job is to provide a friendly, safe environment for these people to work in, provide service to our citizens, protect them, security. But it's also to make each employee a little bit better, make them better. And, I want them to be able to come to my office and say, hey, I got a problem. This is it. I let each captain, I don't micromanage. I pick a captain and I'll tell them, you're responsible for your division. So, if you pick someone to be promoted, you're going to have to be held accountable for that, not me. So by doing that, I think it allows the captains to look at their division more as a owner of that division and not just a manager of that division. And in the past, it's worked. It's working well now. And there's a lot of controversy when you've got a captain who's got a good friend who may be up for promotion, but he overlooks his good friend and picks someone else. It's working. It's working. Oh, yeah. I picked him because of this. He's better suited than my good buddy over here. Which good buddy don't like it, but I know the captain is doing the right thing.
Get it. Business is business. When you got to conduct the appropriate business, I mean, you what are you going to say? Oh, I picked him because he's my buddy. No, you got to pick somebody. He did a great job because I did look at his business presence or his
Exactly.
personal. And not everybody can do everything. Some people think they can, but not everybody can do everything. Um, you know, well, my wife will say, I think I can do everything, but I'll take that, which, you know, I try to tell her every time that I can, but she knows I'm kind of falling short on everything. So we just kind of go work at it. I'm not a builder. I don't know how to build things. I tell anybody, you give me a paper pen, you give me the law enforcement things, I can get around on the computer a little bit. She's in a totally different industry, and I'm like, but if somebody looks at me and says, "Fix the car, take this out there and go build this," I've
Mhm.
tried before, and I spent more time and energy and money fixing it than I
Right.
ever was to pay somebody else. I had to do it to fix when I messed up. So we all have to know our limitations, and I think the sheriffs have to know limitations of some of their employees, and
Yes, sir.
be able to kind of point people in the right direction because ultimately that's the sheriff's job. That's the sheriff. The
You're right.
people that trust you as the sheriff in Randolph County to make the tough decisions so they don't have to. And
Exactly right. Um,
in saying that too, you have an icon that lives in Randolph County too. Am I correct? A well known NASCAR guy
oh yeah. Oh
that
yeah.
lives there too.
Yes,
And
sir.
yeah, he's got a museum there, correct?
Yes, sir. He does.
Yeah, I've been there. When I was, I'm gonna tell him myself now. I used to work transportation, and I would drive all over the state. Of course, delivering inmates here, picking inmates there. I'd be down in Wilmington one day, or I'd be in the mountains the next day, and 12 hours of driving. That's what I did for about probably 14 months. But the best part of one of my trips is when I decided one day to go into Randolph County, what happened to be on the way to some of the facilities, and went into the museum and got a chance and walked in there and met Richard Petty. And I thought, well, what a great job. I
Hmm.
can travel, I can listen to my radio, and a lot of times I would communicate with inmates all the way to where we were going, listen to some of their stories and the things they would tell you, about it. We went by one time. I said, he goes, hey, he said, that's the Richard Petty Museum. I said, yeah, I've always wanted to go. I said, well, you can go when you get out. We're not stopping. But I
Exactly.
did, yeah, but I did when I come back. So I say that there's so much that when you're doing things that you don't associate law enforcement with because you do, and some of the issues. And here's one. And I was going to ask you this: when we used to transport, and back in a few years back, the communication once you started communicating with the deputy, once they left the county, there was no communications. We didn't have a cell phone necessarily back then. We didn't have all these things, and now we have GPS systems in cars and things of those natures that we would use and things of that nature, um, and cameras and things of that. Um, with everything that goes on, the cameras and the policies and the way that things and reads like that. Um, when we're looking at cameras, the one thing we've always found out in the community is that we find out only what whoever's recording wants us to see. And
Exactly.
that's it. I mean, and then after that, whatever the edit they put into it, and generally you find out there's a whole lot more to it because somebody else had a camera in there, or they weren't able to put maybe 10 or 15 seconds of something that was going on. So policies have changed over the years. And in your training, when it comes to that, how do you relate to the officers and training them um, with the presence of these social networks and things of that nature?
Well, we have a meeting before I hire anyone, and I go over a list of what have gotten a lot of officers fired, let go, and that's number one. That's number one. Social media, um, and I tell them that you know whatever you put on there is always going to be able. You're always going to be able to pull it back up. You think you may delete it, but it's still there. Someone's got it. Someone may have may have taken a picture of it or whatever. Um, you know, don't put anything on social media that not only the sheriff would be embarrassed of, but your grandmother or mother would be embarrassed of. Um, we don't want to, we have, policies, obviously, but um, I try to tell them to, if they get so much involved in a post, and I use myself as an example, I've been attacked and attacked and attacked on Facebook. A lot of lies. I'm doing this, I'm doing that. I've didn't do this, didn't do that. And, it'd be very easy for me to stop and say, yeah, you're wrong. I did do this and prove it. But I don't have enough time in the day to spend on Facebook trying to make people believe that I'm not actually what they say I am. The best rule of thumb is to go ahead and do what you're doing, ignore it. And if it bothers you to the point, then don't even look at it. So I don't even look at the negative. I'm not a negative person. I love positive. When I'm around negative people, I become negative, and it's just the way it is. I tell our guys and girls, stay off of it if it affects your attitude. That I don't want anybody with a negative attitude coming to work here at the sheriff's office. It will spread like a virus, and we don't need it. We don't need it. We got to be positive to deal with people. We've got to be positive to deal with the hospital, the inmate. We've got to be positive, and we don't have any room for negative. So, I tell them stay off if they do something or feel like compelled to do something. And, like I said before, I use myself as an example because everybody knows the attacks that I get. And they'll come to me and say, hey, do you see what? Yes. And I'll tell them, get off of it. I don't even look at it now. Uh, it started when we started devotions in the morning. It's that warfare that we're experiencing. But God has given me the ability to have thick skin. And, you're looking at one person, two people saying something. I've got another 142,998 people that truly believe in what I'm doing. So, we'll leave it at that. When I first got here, we had no published policy and procedure. We had to rebuild that. We created, I want to say, 98 policies and added them to a drive where you could go to, read it, sign off on it. And we brought a lot of good to this department. We had many of file cabinets. The walls of our hallways were filled with file cabinets. And I asked them, I said, what's the deal with the file? Oh, that's hard copies of reports. I said, well, why don't you download those reports? Well, we can't. We got to have a hard copy. We got to have a copy of it. I said, well, you can have a copy on a computer. And so we downloaded all those reports, scanned them, put them in the computer, got rid of all the files. We're now paperless, and which is great. And we opened a garage. A lot of people thought it was an illegal garage, is what you heard on the newspaper, but it wasn't. It was a garage that I did. I'm the sheriff of this county, and I looked at ways to save the taxpayers money, and it was going to be cost us this much, which was under the threshold of going before the commissioners and asking permission. And we went ahead and did it. And a lot of people from the outside that were going to run against me in the next primary, they started attacking me, saying I wasn't a team player. I don't get along good with the commissioners. I get along great with the commissioners. I just at times I've got to do something without the commissioners, I guess, permission, because I am the sheriff and I see it firsthand. It's important to do. In that first year, we saved over $150,000. We brought a safer vehicle, and most of the people now say, I don't see how we could do it without a garage. Our response times were reduced. They're not sitting waiting on an appointment at one of the garages in town. They come, they open at 5 o'clock in the morning. Shift change. They could go down and get their car serviced before they go to work at 5 o'clock, which is a downtime, or before they go home for the morning, get their car serviced. So it was a no-brainer, and I haven't heard any negative in reference to it in a long time.
I think it's a great idea. I mean, I know when I was with the sheriff's office for the 35 years I was there, we had a contract garage, one or two or three, and it was spread out, and that's fine. But that's one, two, or three aren't open at 12 o'clock at night if you need them, or not open and don't necessarily have a part available of a common part on like a car that has the common issues that
Right.
we all know come. So you would store four or five or whatever it was, and you can put it right back on the road, as opposed to have them sitting somewhere for 2 weeks, 3 weeks waiting for repair.
You're right.
So yeah, so I think that to me that only makes sense. I mean, it's you also to keep her of the finances. I mean, you got to run an agency, but you also got to remember you got to run it like a business, and
You're
and
exactly right. And
the commissioners are
here,
they're-
I was so happy we had over $3 million left over in our budget, which some of that was people we did not hire at our jail. It was some of those employees that had already been paid for that are not actually working. But every little thing that I can do to save money. I drive a 2008 Chevrolet Yukon with 300,000+ miles on it.
yeah.
And I chose that because I want my men and women under me to have a better car. Well, right now I'm driving my personal vehicle due to the campaign elections going on. So you've got to really practice, pinching pennies, and we get the best product we can for the money, and hopefully we can get a deal at it.
Well, the funny part is that people don't realize that when a sheriff is elected by the law, he's only required to come to work one day out of the year. People don't realize that. So, but when you have a sheriff who's there all the time, who's always accessible, always available, that's different. But I think if you understand how what the letter law versus what sheriffs actually do, and what they can do, it says a lot to a sheriff's integrity of being more involved for longer periods of time and being available immediately, when they're needed. So I looked on your I guess Facebook, and it's saying the Aftermath K9 grant. You want to explain that a little bit? Because
Yeah, what it is, it's a K9 grant that we have applied for, along with a lot of other K9s throughout the country, K9 programs. And you can go on and vote. You can vote as many times as you want to every 24 hours. So I haven't voted yet today, but I've told everybody to vote. And it's money that we could qualify for that would go directly into our K9 fund now. When I took office in 2018, we had one K9, and it was an aging bloodhound. Now we have 9, and we try to have a K9 on every shift, because when you need a K9, it's very important that you get there as quickly as possible. And we have a great team. They went out and I guess won awards for what they have done here. And this will only make us better in the long run if we can, somehow win this. So if you have an opportunity, go and vote. The website, you can go to my Facebook page, click on the website, and vote every 24 hours. It will add up, and hopefully we will be one of the, I guess, many, I know Davidson County's on there, many canines groups that will possibly benefit from your vote. I hope so.
Well, canines are a crucial a tool, so to speak, for law enforcement because they can do what we can't do, get into spots they need to get into.
You
But
better believe it. And their sense is incredible.
It is, and I think the assaults on canines have gone up too in this ever defund the police movement. It's like I said, the canines for any agency are very crucial, whether they're for the drugs, bodies. I mean, people don't realize you can put them underwater and look for drowning victims. It's just so much that you can do with the canine, but a lot of people I think don't realize that a canine's value is about 20 minutes strong when you're working full time. So just having one for your agency it can be very difficult. It's rewarding, but it can be very difficult. So I would recommend anybody that's watching this now, who will be watching it later on the different venues that I have out there, if you would check it out and vote, and let's see if we can get some more canines in Randolph County. I think that would be great because the canines save lives. I guarantee you'll never not want to have one. You'll always want to have one, and it's a great tool for law enforcement. It's great. Um, so, Sheriff, if you wanted the voters to know one thing, or people to know one thing, whether they vote for you or not, or the people in general, what would be something you want them to know about you as an individual, who you are?
I guess it would be that, I'm for all people. Whether you live in a mobile home at the county line, you're going to get the same amount of service as if you live in the biggest house in Randolph County. We're going to be there for everyone, and I mean everyone. I'm as down to earth as you can possibly be. I didn't change when I got elected, and I'll never change as to who I am. I was raised, very modestly. We were poor. I didn't realize how poor we were until I left the house. But, I'm going to be there for those people, and I'm going to do everything I possibly can to bring a service to Randolph County and do the very best in protecting you, the citizen, and their property. It's very important that we do that. Each day we make decisions. Those decisions are based on you, the citizen, and not on a political agenda. And most of the time, those decisions will ultimately pay dividends for me. And they always have. We've always made great decisions. We pray daily about them, and it's just ironic that I could tell you a story about a decision I made, and everybody thought I was crazy when I made it. And 2 days later, it was the only decision that could have worked. And if we'd have went with someone else, it wouldn't have worked. And the reason for that is because Jesus Christ, he laid it in my heart to do this. And I did that. And boy, was it the right decision. So, we're going to look at everything as being important. What's important to someone over here, who is dealing with a house closing is just as important as this person who just lost a loved one due to overdose. And we're going to go over and beyond what we can to help our citizens. That's basically, who I am and what I plan to do.
Sounds like you still got your plate full there in Randolph County. Got a lot of things going on. Got a lot of things in the future, and you've served in this term and running for another term, and it's always great to speak to different law enforcement leaders throughout the state. I've actually got an interview coming up with, like I just scheduled it with Sheriff Joe Arpaio. So I'll be doing an interview with him in the not so distant future. And I'm looking forward to that interview because I've always seen so much interviews with him. So I feel pretty comfortable and feel pretty lucky that I'll have that opportunity to interview him. I have talked to him on the telephone before, and I think it'd just be great to have him on here and just for him being in the battles that he's been in and things he's still been there, and how God's worked in his life and presented him out there for others to look at and know that they too had a warrior and a champion in him also. I think the tide is turning. I think the tide is clearly turning on the issues right now. And it's I tell everybody it's to me it's not a party issue. More it's just a people issue. It's about doing the right thing, even when nobody's looking.
Amen.
And that's the key of everything that we do. And I think we have leaders like Mark Robinson as our lieutenant governor that can do that. And you never know what his next step forward would be, but I'm thinking governor's going to look good on his nameplate. That's what I'm thinking.
I agree.
So I think and the sky's the limit. I can guarantee you his name's going to be mentioned for a lot of things coming up. Whatever that is. So I got a little video of Mark Robinson I want to play for you, and then after a while I won't play the whole thing. Then I'll let you comment on that if you don't mind.
Sir.
All right, so here we go on that.
What law enforcement should look like in our state. I've never been a type of politician to make promises. I never stood on the stage and said, I promise you that if I'm elected, I'll never do that. Except this once. Now I'm going to tell you the promise I'm going to make. And, any of y'all know me know that I believe that God is organizing my footsteps. And if God should see fit to make me the governor of this great state, if it is his will that I serve the people of North Carolina in that capacity, then I make this solemn promise. Might not be day one, might not be day two, but I guarantee you by day 3, we're going to call a press conference. And that press conference is going to be me, and that press conference is going to be the chiefs of police from across the state, the sheriffs from across the state, the DAs from across the state, and I'm going to line them up in front of me, and I'm going to point out to the cameras, and I'm going to tell the criminals and the thugs and the rioters and the bombers and the burners and the statue puller downers, it's a new day in North Carolina, and you will not be tolerated anymore. Law and order is back in the house, and somebody is here to stand up for these men and women in blue that put their lives on the line for us. We will no longer tolerate your foolishness, and if you don't believe me, just try it.
Amen.
So I thought, what are your thoughts on that?
That's what law enforcement needs. I mean, we need someone that we serve for, to, give us that support, and he's that type of individual. You've got counties like Buncombe County, who they have decided not to charge this charge or stop people because they're interfering with their civil rights for this violation or this violation. You can't pick and choose. You can't pick and choose. You've got to, if you see a violation, then stop them and investigate further. That is what's tearing law enforcement down. When you've got a sheriff or a chief over in that area saying, "Oh, we're not going to do this," or "We're not going to arrest for this. We're not going to arrest for that." You know, it could lead into a lot of other bigger things. How many people that could possibly kill somebody? Well, wasn't Timothy McVeigh? Wasn't he stopped for a taillight out? I believe by a state trooper. We can't ignore criminal activity, criminal charges. We've got to do our job. And it frustrates me when they're not going to do this or that or that. You can't be the judge and the jury. You do your job. And that I love Mark Robinson for that main reason. And you could feel the passion, you could feel the honesty, and he is truly a man of God who will support you if you're in the right. And that's what I like about him. And I'll vote for him.
Well, I think he emulates integrity. If you had to have one word, it's integrity. And I think that like I said, in a lifetime, you see a few leaders like Mark Robinson.
I agree.
And where he started and how far he's come up. And that's because he's remembered everybody along the way, and he doesn't forget that where he stood, where he stands now, and he always realizes that that it's a short trip back to where you come from, and Mark understands that because Mark is a man of the people. I will say, and I've heard, if you had to say who is Mr. North Carolina, it would definitely be Mark Robinson, because you say Mark Robinson, you got to think of North Carolina. You say North Carolina, you got to think of Mark Robinson. And I know that just bothers some people on the far left, because their worst day was when he stood up to the mic in Greensboro. That was their worst day. And the media and all that stuff that goes on with the media and their dislike for Mark. But the reality is good things come. It's never easy to get there. And champions only come by every so often, the warriors and fighters. And when they do, they make a lot of noise. And they also make a lot of enemies that want to take them out, take them down. And they'll do just about anything to do it.
Yeah, and we see that now, I'm sure, in his own party.
Oh, yeah.
That is concerning, but God's on his side, and I think Mark, if he never sways away and forgets God, I think if he continues to look to God for guidance, he will be whatever he wants to be.
That's right. He's a force. He's a force to be reckoned with. He's not going to step down from the left's apparel of danger and things of that, defunding the police and stuff. So, Sheriff, I really enjoyed the conversation here today, and appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule, because I know being a sheriff is a very difficult time, and you've probably missed about 3 or 4 meetings sitting here, because I know how that works. It's just. There's a war on police out there, and we need strong sheriffs to stand up to that war and take care of not only the citizens but the officers that work for them. And through the hard work, determination, and integrity, that can be done. And I appreciate you talking to me today. Again, this will be on different venues out there for networks. So anybody can find me on the Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, uh, whatever's out there. I mean, I've got several out there. You just name it, I'm probably on it. But anyway, um, again, I appreciate you being here. And any last words that you want to speak to the folks about?
No, this interview was actually at a good time. I've been working the polls. I'll come in throughout the day, check my emails, check my mail, and get updates from some of the other divisions, and then go back to the precinct and work. I planned it that way. That way I can meet the people. If I want them to see me out there working the polls. I want to earn my way, which I think I have as a sheriff again for 4 years. And, it shows them that I'm not taking it for granted. I want to do well, and it gives me an opportunity to talk to people I do not know. And, it's happened. I've saw a lot of people I did not know, introduce myself to them, and they were tickled. So, I appreciate you, reaching out to me. I'm just a little sheriff in a Randolph County in a kind of rural setting that a lot of people overlook. But we are doing great things here, and I look into the future as being, when I first came in, I want to be the best sheriff in Randolph County history, and when I accomplish that, I want to be the best sheriff in the state, and then on and on and on. I want to continually to improve, and I think the attribute of being the best sheriff is learning the needs of the people and finding a solution for those needs. And I'll never ever stop doing that. I know your job is great. You get to talk to people, learn, a lot about people and what makes them tick. And that would be fascinating in itself. So you've got the best job, I think.
Well, you had a really great job yesterday when I called you. It was called Grandfather Babysitter.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I like that because when I started talking, the first thing I heard is your grandchild in the back, and you didn't hesitate to tell me that you're babysitting. So I can relate to that too, because that's what grandpas do, and that's just that's, to me, when you look back in life and the things that we accomplish and do, I think that's one of the best jobs there is being a granddaddy or a grandfather. Or my granddaughter, I have to tell this story real quick. She picked a unique name for me, and we, and it's really weird, but it's funny. She really never had a name, and then it took her a while to pick out what she was going to call me. So when she was younger, she was old enough to kind of understand that she was sitting at the counter and they were doing apples and things like that, and doing candy apples. And she was she was young enough that she was sitting on the counter. And she only called me Paul one time. And we were figuring out, what is she going to call me? We really don't know yet. And out of the blue, she pointed and it was like Apple. And from that day on, I have been known as Apple. She has named me Apple. So she'll say, is Apple there? So I always say, I'm lucky enough to have the most unique name for a grandparent that I think ever existed, that I've now become known to everybody else as Apple also.
Yeah, that is good. That is a good name. I'm Pop. I've got 4 grandsons, and from 3 years old down to birth. So it's going to be a busy Christmas, but it's going to be full of memories. I can't wait.
Well, it's like I always say, I know when Christmas is getting close because the box ferry is on the way from Amazon. I see that, or FedEx. I see them trucks pulling in nonstop. It's when you get to, you might as well invite them to dinner because they spend as much time dropping off as you are there. So,
You're exactly right. But,
But-
you know, if I can ever be of any help to you or any of your listeners, let me know. I'm here for you.
well, I appreciate that. And I'm going to sign off, but stand by and I'll get with you before we cut away. And I'll be back to you in just a second.
Yes, sir.
And
Thank you.
good luck on your election.
Thank you.
Well, folks, there you have it. Sheriff Greg Siebold, Randolph County. What a great conversation that was. As you always know, I don't do interviews. We do conversations because I think we can get a little more information about what's going on and then let the conversation flow. But we talked about Mark Robinson and we talked about a little bit of everything. And when you look at the big game, the scheme of things that go on in life, law enforcement's not a game. It's not a social. It's not a social experiment. This is law enforcement where we have men and women putting their life on the line every single day, and they have leaders, and those leaders become the protectors of our communities, and they're who you go to. They're the most significant person you can talk to. If anybody ever wants to know who is the most significant person you can talk to in your county, because there's so much that people can do, but the highest elected official is the sheriff of your county. He is the guy that you have to go to. If you want to get a notary seal and you need somebody to sign for you to get a notary, yes, the sheriff can sign that as a character reference for you to get that notary seal. The clerk of court. People, I mean, it's just not everybody can do those kind of things. You know, there's so much that it takes to be a sheriff that sometimes we're not aware of. But the bottom line is the sheriff is there. He's a public servant. He's there to protect you, protect the community, protect your children, schools. And those are the most important commodities you'll ever have in life. You know, your family is there. You want to protect them. So when you look at sheriffs and you talk to sheriffs, understand who they are, have those conversations, and you'll find out their dads, their grandfathers, they may be mothers, grandmothers, just like we are. The sheriff is you, the people for which they serve. So I say to you, as I always say at the end of our show, be real, be safe, and always be ready, because you never know when the wolf is knocking at your door.